ready to. So I'm going to get ready to share my screen because it always takes me a little bit of time to get that underway. So if you can just give me 1 minute to do that. Thank you all for coming. Hopefully you all can see the shared screen, I believe. Okay. So let's double check with that just to make sure that is working. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much. And I apologize for any technology issues that we have. We are all still learning about Zoom, so just please bear with me. So I am Tanea Reed. I am the co-chair of Target 3 for the Beta Gamma Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So I'd officially like to welcome you to your home buying experience. So thank you so much for joining us. All right. So just a little information about Target 3 for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It's called Building Your Economic Legacy. So Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we emphasize financial planning with this target, asset accumulation, wealth building, including savings, investments, managing debt, and also improving credit. So for this target, there are 4 main objectives: personal financial planning and asset accumulation, credit repair and monitoring, entrepreneurship and the Black Dollar 365, and also Operation AKA Assist. So before we begin, we'd like to go over a few ground rules for today's workshop. So first, we would ask you to please listen to the information because we will actually be giving away 2 door prizes at the end of the workshop. Also, if you can please put all of your questions in the chat because we will have a Q&A session after the 2 presentations. And if you will, please stay muted during the workshop. So now I will pass it over to our other chair of Target 3, Marilyn Clark.
Thank you, Tanea, and good evening, everybody. I'm really excited that we are doing our first workshop, and we hope that it is a benefit to everyone. So I wanted to start out with a little bit of context to talk about why owning a home is important to building wealth, since building wealth is an important part of this target. So let me share a few statistics with you. In 2019, the median white household held $188,200 in wealth. That is 7.8 times that of the typical Black household, which in 2019 had $24,100 in accumulated wealth. So the value of your home minus your mortgage balance is your home equity. And that home equity is really important to you building wealth for your family. Something got caught in my throat. So home equity is a large component of many people's household wealth, but it is particularly true of Black and brown households. So at the end of 2019, about 28% of Hispanic households and 20% of Black families' wealth came from home equity. So that's compared to 16% of white families. So what that says is that home equity is a really big part of how we build wealth as a people. And so when you buy your first home and you build up equity in your home, it gives you other options that are helping you to build generational wealth. So we just wanted to share that with you as we get started. We have some wonderful speakers for us tonight, and they are our experts for the evening. Janet Beard from West Banco Bank. She is a mortgage loan officer. And Joyce Nicholson, Rector Hayden, is a realtor. And so she is also a part of Beta Gamma Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. So I'm going to turn it over to Joyce and Janet, and they will get us started with our information sharing.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And thank you all for coming to our webinar. We hope this is very, very informative for you all. So I'm gonna start by just saying, as most of you may or may not know, the mortgage interest rates at this time are historic low, okay? Which means the lower the mortgage rates, the more buying power you have. So you can actually buy more house for the same amount of money. And oftentimes, as some of you may know, a mortgage payment is sometimes cheaper than renting. So that being said, perhaps you may be considering purchasing a home, but you're not sure where to start. So today we're going to acquaint you with the home buying process. There are actually 4 phases of the home buying process, and today we're going to review those. So they are at the beginning, let's see, next slide. We have the decision, pre-approval. We have the offer and the negotiations. Phase 3 is financing and inspections. And then the 4th phase is the closing the possession. So starting with phase 1, what I like to do basically is to start with a buyer's consultation. And that's where we will review the home buying process, establish your wants and needs, and I will guide you through the home buying process. At that meeting, I also would provide you with a packet of information. I don't know if you all can see this or not, but this is a packet of information that I'll have for you all. And it has all the documents that you will need, the contracts information that you will need in going through this process. And that you can review that at your own leisure and not wait till you actually have a contract, you're in a transaction. So what we do first is we will do a search for properties at this buyer counseling session. And we'll just look at everything that you want and just I get a feel for what you like. But during that consultation, we don't actually go looking at properties, because first I would like for you to talk to a lender about the best loan products for you. And I'll have some idea of what's out there, but the lender will know specifically. They'll determine the maximum loan amount for which you qualify. And also, if you have a pre-approval letter, once you've found a property, it provide you with more negotiating power. And that way the seller won't have any doubt that you can qualify for this loan. And that's really vital in the market that we're in today. So Jenny's going to review with you the process for obtaining financing.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce, and good evening, everyone. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, as well as Joyce, my partner in this as well with Rector Hayden. And we thank you all for joining us, taking the time to join and to learn. As Marilyn said at the very beginning, owning a home, you purchasing a home, that is the fastest way for you to create wealth. And we talk about wealth from generation to generation, passing that down. So it is important, but it's a process. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you all about tonight is the process. Buying a home is probably the biggest investment, the biggest purchase that you'll ever make in your life. So it is about getting ready and it's about getting prepared. And it does take preparation. So I'm going to talk in phase 1 about the pre-qualification, pre-approval process. We're going to talk about a checklist, talking about information that you will need to make sure that you take to your lender. And this is, again, about being prepared. 4 key areas that we're going to focus in on tonight is around your employment, your income, your assets, as well as credit. We're going to talk about a few different loan programs, down payment assistance, grants, help you understand what gift funds are. And we're going to talk about debt to income. If you all heard the acronym the acronym of DTI means debt to income. And we're going to talk about what that really means. And we're also going to talk about PITI. That's another acronym that you'll learn a little bit more about tonight, as well as escrow and what does all that really mean as it relates to your payment. So when we talk about information and information that you need as you start to prepare towards your journey of home ownership, I think Tanea may put in the chat box that West Banco, we have a document checklist. So I hope you'll take that and use that as a resource, again, because you're helping your lender help you as well. So when we talk about pre-qualification, pre-approval, what does that really mean? That means you're going to come to the lender and we're going to help you determine how much you can borrow. We're going to help you understand what your payments are going to be. Both pre-qualification, pre-approval will require that you do an application, that you complete an application and that the lender run credit. So all that information is going to be reviewed. So when you get to this point and you know you're serious about home ownership, think of the words freeze frame. There's things that are happening and you don't want a lot of moving parts as you're going through this process. So what do I mean by that? So we're going to look at employment. One of the things that you want to make sure you have is at least a 2-year work history. That's what the lender is going to be looking for. The investor wants to make sure that you are working or you have that 2-year work history that shows you have stability. It shows that your employment, your income, all of that, when we look at that, those are key factors for you as it relates to you being able to make your payment. So we're going to look at that. And so this is not really the time that you want to change jobs. If you want to do that, that's okay in some instances, especially if there's, you're going to be earning more income, things like that. But you don't want to change jobs in the midst of when you're getting ready to apply for a mortgage. And I'll give you an example of why not. If you're working a current job, you've been there over 2 years and you earn a lot of overtime. And with your pre-qualification, with your application, you're hoping that you can use all of that income to qualify, including your overtime, your base wages plus your overtime. If you end up changing jobs and you may receive overtime, but if you've not been receiving that overtime portion for at least 2 years, you may not be able to count that. So again, just freeze frame. If you can hold off on employment, I wouldn't make any sudden moves. Then when it comes to income, we're gonna look at your income, the different types of income to help you so that we know the income that you have to help you qualify. So what does that require? We're going to ask you for about 2 of your most recent pay stubs, or basically enough pay stubs that cover a 30-day period. We're going to look at your income. We look at other sources of income. If you receive alimony, if you receive child support, those are all sources of income that you want to make sure that your lender is aware of so that they can tell you if you're able to count that income or not. For example, child support. You can count child support as long as that support is going to continue for at least 3 more years. So that may vary with different variances of income. So make sure that you're telling your lender the sources of income that you have so that we can help you determine if we can include that income or not. We're also going to look at your assets. So what are the assets? We're going to ask you, how much money do you have? As you've been preparing for this process, have you been saving? Do you have money saved for a down payment that you can use towards the deal? Some people think that to purchase a home, and this is a barrier, people think that you have to have 20% down or you can't buy a home. Well, that's not true. You can get into a home with as little as 3% down. There's some loan programs, I'll talk about those, that offer 100% financing. So don't think that you have to have 20% down, because that's not true. But we will talk to you about down payment, because the more money you are able to put down, the lower your loan amount's going to be. And so the lower your monthly payment's going to be. It will also help you, the more you put down, the less you have to pay on additional types of insurance. So for example, if you don't put 20% down, in most cases, you have to carry what you call private mortgage insurance. That private mortgage insurance protects the lender in the event that you default on your loan. It does not protect you, the buyer. So again, the more you put down, the less that insurance premium will be. We're also going to look at your credit. So your credit's going to be reviewed, evaluated. You know, we got to make sure that you are responsible and that you're paying your debts and you're paying those as agreed. So we're going to get a credit report. If you plan on buying in the next 12 months, one of the things that I highly encourage is to go to annualcreditreport.com. If you have not looked at your credit report and you just want to know where you are, this is a great baseline. You can get a free copy from every major credit bureau agency once a year. We're all entitled to that. You don't get your score in that case, but you do get a free copy of your credit report from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So I encourage you to get that report before you start this process. Review it. You want to monitor, you know, how are you doing? And then you want to make sure you continue to pay things as agreed. So the credit report is very, very, very important to the process. And then, so we're reviewing all of that information: employment, assets, income, and then your credit. And we're also going to we're going to take that information as part of your pre-qualification. We're going to take that information, we're looking at your income, and then here we go. We're going to talk about how much can you really afford. We see you're working, you have great income, you've been on your job for over 2 years. Now, debt to income. That is looking at your income, taking your gross wages. So everything's based on your gross. Looking at that, and we're going to determine what you can afford. I tell people from a qualifying standpoint, when they say, well, how much can I afford? I want you to remember the numbers 28, 43. 28% front end, 43% max on the back end. So what that means is if your gross monthly income is, let's just say $4,000 a month, the maximum debt that you can have, including your mortgage, and then all of your other existing debts. So car payments, credit cards, anything like that, all your other existing debt, you cannot exceed 43% of your income. There's some programs that are less, that back end ratio is less than that. But for qualifying purposes, just to give you an idea, take your gross monthly income, 43% of that is the max that you can have towards your house payment and existing debt. That front end ratio needs to be about 28%. So again, if you take that gross monthly income times 28%, in this case at $4,000, that's $1,120. So that means your house payment really does not need to exceed any more than that. So your lender will dig into that with you and make sure that your income versus your debts, we can get you qualified. Because the goal is to ensure that you are able to make your mortgage payment, but you're also able to pay your other debts and live comfortably. And then PITI, if you've heard that before, that's called principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So when you go out on Zillow and places like that, and you see a home and it says the house payment is $800 a month, that is probably not including, it's not including property taxes and homeowners insurance that must be included as part of your mortgage payment. So PITI, again, represents the principal portion of the payment, the interest portion of the payment, your homeowners insurance portion, and then also the property taxes. So again, you gotta be careful. You wanna make sure that you don't go get just qualified based on your income. you want to make sure that you're getting pre-qualified or pre-approved based on your budget and what you can afford to pay. Because we can tell you that you're qualified based on your income to purchase a $400,000 home, but you may not want a $400,000 payment. So be mindful of that. Make sure that that total payment fits within your budget. Real quickly, just some different loan programs that I wanted to share with you. So if you don't have a lot of resources, that's okay. Remember, I said that there's programs out there that you can get into a home with as little as 3% down. There's conventional, what you call conventional financing. Conventional just means that they're conventional loans not secured by any type of government entity. It's guaranteed by private lenders. You may have heard the names like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So those loan programs, as little as 3%, 5% down being the minimum. And then you have FHA, which is the Federal Housing Administration. They offer FHA a little more lenient on credit, you know, if your credit is less than perfect. And then the down payment requirement is only 3.5%. If you're a veteran, the VA loan, Veterans Administration, another great program that's eligible for our service members and veterans, and then also surviving spouses can take advantage of the VA loan, which offers no down payment and no private mortgage insurance. So those are just some great programs. USDA, if you're looking at buying in a rural area, USDA, rural development, 100% financing, no down payment requirement, and then that mortgage insurance is minimal there, but they help. USDA is for low and moderate income borrowers, and they do a lot of, you know, like I said, if you're living in a rural area, they've helped a lot of families. And then we're going to make sure you understand what the difference is between a fixed rate and an adjustable rate mortgage is. People do both. It just depends on a person's situation. But if you're one who doesn't like to gamble, the majority of folks will go with a fixed rate mortgage because they know over the life of that loan, 30-year mortgage, their rate portion, the rate will never change. So the principal and interest portion of that payment will never change over the 30 years. But what can change is the taxes and insurance as property values go up. But so people will take the fixed rate, an adjustable rate, or you'll hear the word ARM, ARM, another acronym, stands for adjustable rate mortgage. And that rate can change over the life of the loan. Usually they're a little lower in rate at the time. But again, if you're worried about the market changing and all that, you might want to stick with a fixed rate mortgage. So those are, I know that was a lot of information, and a lot of information really, really fast, and you probably feel like you're drinking from a water hose, but that's kind of the gist of it. When you walk away from your lender, you're going to know, or you should know, what your payment is, what kind of loan program they're putting you in, how much down payment you're going to need. You should know all those things. And we're going to hand you a letter, and you're going to take it to Joyce, and Joyce is going to help you find a home. So Joyce, I'm going to turn it back over to you at this point.
Well, thank you, Janet. As Janet said, once you've retained your pre-approval or pre-qualification letter, now it's time for us to look for houses. We know exactly how much we're going to spend, and we know what price range we're in. So that's going to be real helpful when we are looking in different areas. And we would have already talked about the areas that you were interested in at our buyer consultation. But at this point, we're really going to start looking for houses. So we'll do that by, of course, doing a computer search. We'll get together. And what I like to do is I like to take every property that we have and put them all in a big basket. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose them by a process of elimination. So there's some houses, the price range is too much, wrong neighborhood, whatever. So we'll keep eliminating until we come upon the right property. Some properties we'll look at, we'll drive by. Some of them we will just do internet searches. And the ones that are closest to what you're looking for, we'll do that by, we'll just go and do a visit. So it's important that while we're looking for properties, that we do have that pre-qualification letter, because that's going to be very important when we do our offer. So after we've eliminated everything and we have found the house, then we're ready to move to phase 2, which is the offer and negotiation section. So what we're going to do is we're going to prepare to write an offer. So once the property has been identified, what I like for us to do is sit down, review all the comparable properties in the area so we can make sure that we're not overpaying for the property. We want to make sure that the property is going to appraise. So we determine this by doing what I call a market analysis, and we like to do this prior to writing an offer so you can know what is the best price for you to offer. In writing the offer, once we get that, then we will actually just discuss the terms and conditions in addition to how much you're going to offer. And some terms and conditions could be the closing time, the possession time, the repairs you want to include, if you want to sell it to pay any closing costs and that sort of thing. So we will discuss all of this, and we will compile this in our offer, and we send it to the buyer, the seller's agent. And the seller will review the offer, and they will do one of things. They will accept the offer as it is. Depending on the offer, they could reject the offer, or they could counter the offer. And that's where we actually negotiate maybe some of those terms and conditions. Maybe they're okay with the price, but maybe they need more time to close. Maybe they don't want to do the certain repairs. If that's the case, then they will let us know, and then we can decide whether we are agree with any of the terms and conditions on the counter offer. Now, once that we have gone back and forth with all of our terms and conditions and negotiations, and everybody has agreed on everything, then you have a contract. So after all parties have signed, everybody's agreed, all parties have signed, then you have what we call a contract. After we get that contract, then we move on to our third phase, which is the financing and inspections. So first thing we do, we got all the initials, we got all the signatures, and we're going to send it back to Janet for financing so that they can start the final loan approval.
All right, this is where things get really, really exciting on this end. You leave Joyce and you call and you say, hey, I've got that contract. And then Joyce is reaching out and she's actually sharing the contract. That's what I say we are ready to go live. And what does going live really mean? So we go live. Remember at the pre-qualification, at the pre-qualification stage, there's things we collected from you. We collected bank statements. We collected, your pay stubs, W-2s, things that you'll find on that checklist that we shared. So we collected all that information because the pre-qualification, I didn't say this on the front end, but it's good for about 90 days. For some lenders, it may be good for 120 days. But once you go live, once you get that contract, you're going to bring that contract in, we're going to get that contract, and then we're going to refresh some of the documents that you would have provided during the pre-qualification phase. So we may get updated pay stubs. Everything has to be the most recent. So most recent pay stubs, your most recent bank statements at that point. And what I would tell you here is that time is of the essence. So if you do everything that your lender tells you to do, you provide the documentation within a timely manner, things should move pretty smoothly because you do not want to get in this process and be overwhelmed. I always say that's the last thing I want for any of my borrowers is to be overwhelmed with the process. Because when you get to the closing, you know, I want you to look back and say, this was a good experience. Working with the lender, working with your realtor. We want this, Joyce and I, your lender, the realtors, we want this to be a good experience for you. So time is of the essence. If your lender says they need something, you really need to try to get that information turned around as soon as possible. I wanted to also share during this piece, and when the contract comes, we go live, there's about 5 milestones that you need to think about, or what will happen as you go through this process. So the first one on the lender side is the application. So now we have that application, we have gone live. Once we get the updated information, we do some initial disclosures, and I'm gonna come back to the initial disclosures because you're gonna see a lot of information. You're gonna see a lot of numbers. You need to make sure that you understand what those numbers are. So you're going to receive a loan estimate. You need to look at the loan estimate, look at the fees that you're being charged, make sure you know that those fees are aligned. But those are things that you technically would talk about too at the pre-approval process. But so once we finish with these initial disclosures, the file is now refreshed with updated information. The next milestone is going to be processing. So a processor is going to get your file. They're taking all that information. They're starting to send out verification of employment to your employer. They're doing other things such as, you know, ordering the appraisal. So there will be an appraisal. I get questions all the time like, well, do I order the appraisal? No, that is part of the cost that you're paying, part of closing costs. And that's part of the process with the lender. We're going to order an appraisal on that property, an appraisal being an unbiased estimate of what the true value is of that property. Also, we're ordering title work. We're working with an attorney. So you've got all these partnerships pretty much going on in sync. We're all working together, trying to get you to the closing table. So they're getting title work to make sure the title's clear and things like that. So that's just all part of the processing stage. And then when the processor finishes, the processor's ordered all these services, and then the file is going on to underwriting. That's when people get a little nervous because they feel like, well, I made it through the application, I made it to processing. Now it's the underwriter's turn. And the underwriter is going to go through all that information with a fine-tooth comb. They're making sure that we calculated your income correctly. They're making sure that the appraisal, when the appraisal comes back, they're reviewing the appraisal. They're making sure that it looks good. They're looking at the title work. They're making sure there's no other liens or anything out there against the property. They're doing all the checks and balances. So we've gone from application to processing to underwriting. And then when it comes out of underwriting, when you get this call from your lender that says you've been conditionally approved, that's a good sign. That means you weren't turned down. That just means we're conditionally approved. And that just means with conditions. Well, Janet, what are those conditions? It could be almost anything. It could be that a pay stub they need an updated pay stub. Maybe I forgot to put the updated one in there. So they may condition it based on, you know, an updated pay stub, or sometimes a file. The bank, by the time you give the most recent bank statement, it's getting close to being outdated. And we need your new statement has cut, so we may need an updated statement. So sometimes they will condition make it conditionally approved, but based on these things, based on the appraisal, based on the title work. So some things are not even you coming from the borrower. It could be just something normal stuff that we're waiting on. And then once we get conditionally approved, so application, processing, underwriting, conditionally approved, and then we wait on that. The words that we all love to hear is clear to close, but I'll come back to that a little later. While your loan is going through this process with the lender, things are still being worked on the other end too. So in this case, Joyce and I are still working together, again, during this process, working in partnership. There's some inspections that may be needed that's required as part of your loan, depending on the loan program that you go through. But I'm going to turn it back over to Joyce so Joyce can talk about some of those things that's happening while we're still working together. Your loan is still going through the process. Joyce, I'll turn it back to you to talk about some of the inspections.
Okay, so while the loan is in processing, then we also in our contract either negotiated inspection as far as a whole house inspection, and if we determine to do a whole house inspection, then we need to hire a home inspector, which is someone that I would give you a list of people, or if you have to know somebody that can do a home inspection, you would hire someone to go over to look at the house. There's lots of things when you look at the house, you love it, you love the color, but perhaps you didn't really make sure that the water heater worked, that the furnace worked. And so we would have a home inspection to have a home inspector to go by, and they will check that for you. It's something that, like I say, is your choice, it's who you want, and it takes them about 3 or 4 hours to do it. So what you will do is let them go and do the inspection, and after that's been done, the home inspector will give you a report, an extensive report. And part of the reason for the report is just to give you some sense of what the condition is of the property. Some of the items are just normal wear and tear. So you're really looking for systems, anything like electrical, HVAC, plumbing, those kinds of things, structural, those are the kinds of things that you didn't see when you did your initial walkthrough. So you want to make sure that you have someone to look through all that. And that's what the home inspection basically is for. So once you get the report back, we will go through the report, and you determine if there's anything that you would like to request for the sellers to repair. And these repairs are actually negotiated between you and the sellers. And they can fix some of them, all of them, none of them. And you can determine at that time whether it's important for certain things. Now, let's say if the HVAC has problems, you want to make sure that it's working. But let's say if you have just a little drippy faucet, that's no big deal. You know, $75, you can get a plumber to come over and fix it. That's not such a big deal. So that's one of the things that we disclose when we do home inspections. So you can be comfortable that the property that you have is something that's not going to give you a lot of problems. The other inspection is dependent on the loan program, is a termite inspection. You want to make sure that the house doesn't have termites. And that, again, we just select the termite inspector, and that's your choice. And then we'll have them to go over, take a look at it, do the inspection. And if there happen to be termites, as negotiated in the contract, the sellers will be responsible for getting it repaired. And not repaired, I'm sorry, getting the treatment for the termite. And if there happen to be any repairs needed, then it's negotiable with the sellers as to who make the repairs if it's more than 10% of the sale price. So once we got all that done, we've negotiated with the sellers as to the repairs, or there could be none. Sometimes there's nothing. Then we simply are just waiting for the final loan approval. And at that point, we're waiting for the call from Janet. Okay, so Janet.
Here comes that call. So after Joy, so everything she just described about, you know, if there was with your particular loan program, for example, if, you know, a termite inspection was required, that is something that would have to be part of your file as well. But at the end of the day, so now I'm going back to that final milestone of clear to close. So once everything is done everything is in the file. The underwriter is going to go back and review that file and check all those boxes. Now, all of the conditions from you and or that we were waiting on just as part of the loan, all those conditions have been met. We all, like I said, wait on those wonderful 3 words of clear to close. So at that time, when we receive the clear to close, I start making my phone calls to you, the borrower, to say, hey, congratulations, we can schedule your closing. I'm letting the realtors know what's going on so that everybody, and that's just part of the process for me, is keeping everybody staying in communication with you and with the realtors so that everybody knows what's going on with the file and you don't have to worry about, hey, what's going on, what's going on. So we get the clear to close. I reach out to the title company, the attorney closing your loan, and we schedule the closing based on, and again, I didn't say this, or Joyce may have mentioned it, but in that contract, there's a target close by date in there. So everybody, when I say the time is of the essence, everybody is working towards that closing date to make sure that we can get you closed on time. So once we get that scheduled with the title company, we are pretty much ready to go when we get, I know Joyce is going to come back, but you know, a couple of things that I wanted to mention when it goes back to the fees and things like that, or things that you're going to see throughout that process. Just again, you're going to see a lot of documentation coming your way. So just make sure that you're looking at all of it. If you don't understand it, please, you know, reach out to your realtor, reach out to your lender, just make sure, ask for clarification. If you don't know, you need to make sure you ask. So Joyce, I'll turn it back over to you to talk about some of the important documents. Once we get the closing set up and a date, everybody's going to show up. And I'll let Joyce talk about some of the things that you're going to be signing and what else happens at that closing.
Okay, so once I've gotten that call from Janet, she says we got to clear to close, then I will be talking with the buyers, just determine what's a good day. So we coordinate with the attorneys to see what's a good time for them, and we coordinate with the buyers to see what time is good for them, and then with the sellers also. So everybody has to be there. So we get that together. Everybody's in agreement as to what time we're gonna have the closing. Then per our contract, you looked at the property when you first bought it. You looked at it for the inspection, but it may have been 2 or 3 weeks since you've actually seen that property. So prior to closing, we set up a time. It has to be within 48 hours of closing. We go back to the property to do what's called a final walkthrough. And that's for 2 purposes. One, to make sure that it's in the same or better condition as it was when you purchased it. And 2, also, if there are any repairs that need to be done, we want to make sure that's been completed, because sometimes the sellers will, you know, it'll take them a little time to get them completed. So we want to make sure it's done and it's done correctly. So we go over there within 48 hours of closing, look at everything, make sure everything is okay. We're good to go. And so at that point, we have a form that we have to sign that says you're okay with everything and that you will accept the property in its as-is condition. So once that's been done, we all get together, go to closing, sit down, sit around the table. It's pretty light and jovial type of a setting. And we all just sit there, and you sign about 300 pages of documents. But there's a lot of forms that you do have to sign if you're getting financing. So we just sit there, and everybody gets everything signed. You have to bring checks. Janet will tell you how much you have to bring as far as your monies that you will need. And if I have a escrow check for you, I will bring that back to you. That's part of the contract. And once everything is signed, then you will get your keys that very day. So that's pretty much the process. And like I say, it's very I don't know, it's something that we do a lot of, Janet and I, but it still makes you feel good when you know that you've helped someone find a house that they really want and they're happy with it. And so we're happy too. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the process. Janet, do you have anything you need to add other than, Janet, do you come to closings?
I do. No, I do. Okay. I sure do.
The last one we had was it was the pandemic.
Yeah, I was doing right. Yeah.
We all sat in our cars.
Yeah, during the pandemic is very different because they didn't let some title companies didn't want the loan officers there. They just wanted it, you know, minimal people as possible in the room. But that's now, you know, people are still wearing masks, but it's an exciting time. And, you know, myself as your loan officer, you know, cheering you on from the very beginning. Definitely want to be there to share in that special day with you on closing as well.
All right, great. Thank you both so much for this wealth of information. I feel more knowledge,able about the process, a little bit more at ease about the process as well. So I really and truly thank you both. I've been monitoring the chat and we have quite a few questions. We definitely want to get to, we have a few kind of concluding remarks and announcements before we do door prizes as well. But we definitely want to take the time to make sure that your questions are being answered. So the first question is, what is considered a moderate income level to qualify for the USDA loan?
Basically, it goes back to, so it is income based, the USDA loan. So as long as your income, your household income is less than like $92,000 a year, I think it's about that. I don't know the number exactly, but I think about 92,000. Then from an income perspective, you could technically qualify. So, but as far as what you qualify for, that will all be determined upon your income versus your existing debts. If that makes, hopefully that answers the question. Because it could be different. What you qualify for would be different, could be different from someone else, because everybody's situation is very different.
Sure. Our next question is, how much should you put down for the good faith money?
Joyce, you want to take that?
Okay, yeah. Actually, you actually don't have to put anything down for good faith estimate, money. We kind of recommend that you put down at least $500. What that good faith estimate, money is basically is to tell the sellers that you are serious about purchasing the house. If you only have $100 to put down, you could put down 100, but the sellers may think that you're maybe not a very serious buyer if that's all you want to put down. Also, it's money that you would lose if you were default. So if you put down $5,000, that means that I'm really serious. I am not going to walk away from this house because I am not going to lose this, $5,000. But if you put down $100, they may say, who cares about 100? But I would say on average for like an FHA, maybe about $500 minimum. And then if you go up, depending on, some people want 1% earnest money, but it just kind of all depends. Just do your best when it comes to your earnest money.
Sure. Thank you. The next question, it's a little bit of a two-part question. So one part is, who provides the first-time home buyer courses? Does the lender provide that, or who?
Great question, because I forgot to cover that. So there are certain loan programs that require that you take home buyer education. So typically the lender does not provide that. It's usually done through a third-party agency, and your lender would give you that information. Like, for example, we do a lot with Reach, and based in Lexington. There's also an online course. So, but your lender will actually provide that information for you, but it is typically done through a third party.
Okay. And kind of to follow up on that, what are the benefits and drawbacks of the first-time home buyers course?
Absolutely encourage it, even if you know, you weren't ready to do application and you just wanted to do it, because those certificates that you receive, they're good for like 6 months, maybe even longer than that. So, but the benefit is helping you understand key things such as budgeting, savings, predatory lending. All those things are built in that home buyer education course. And it is something that, you know, we all need to take refresher courses on if we've not, but just great information that will help you a solid foundation going into home ownership. So I highly recommend it.
Okay. So how does any aspect of this process differ from moving forward with a new build?
Okay, I can answer that. Actually, the process is pretty much the same. Yeah. Because you have to, if you know, unless you're paying cash, you still have to have financing. The only difference is the seller will be the builder and not just, you know, a homeowner. So it would be a builder. So you would be working with them, you know, as a seller. So it's pretty much the same process, except that, you know, you've got, when you're building, you know, you got to start from the ground up. You have to, you know, there's a lot of selections, and as far as, you know, sites and plans and those kinds of things. But as far as the process of buying, it's pretty much the same.
And I will add to that, from the financing side, it's the same. The builder, you know, even if they're not working with the realtor, the builder's going to want a qualification letter as well. So those things, you still have to have your financing lined up so they know exactly what you've been approved for.
Okay. Just a couple more questions, but if anybody has additional questions, just keep them flooded in the chat here. So is there a specific timeline that's followed from the initial application to the closing?
So pre-qualification, let's start there. Remember that pre-qualification is good for 90 days. So during that, from the time you start that application, you've got 90 days to perhaps, hopefully, find a home, and you don't have to start another application. If that pre-qualification expires, then yes, we would have to do another application. But when you write that, when your offer is accepted and that contract is sent to me, there is a date in there. So it could be anywhere from closing in 30 days to 45 days, you know, to 60 days. It's all agreed upon, you know, I guess between all parties, but anywhere from 30 days, typically 30 to 45 days is what we see on the contract from start to finish.
Okay. And there are a couple more loan related questions. So should the cost of the home warranty be included with the loan?
Do you want to talk about that, Joyce? Because that's not really.
Yeah, can it be included with the loan? Normally that's not included with the loan. That's something that's paid outside of closing.
Because typically, sometimes the seller will pay that, right?
Sometimes the seller will buy it, and then also it's part of the closing cost, if anything. If it does get rolled in, but you're going to have to bring closing costs. We didn't talk much about closing costs, though. We talk about down payments, but that's part of the closing costs that you would have to pay that outside.
Okay, and just a couple more questions. Do you have to go through the same process to refinance at a lower interest rate?
The refinance is
yes,
the same thing. Yeah, application, same documentation. So pretty much, yes, the same process.
Okay. And what is the minimum credit score to obtain a home loan?
That will vary from lender to lender. And the reason I say that is because lenders have different investors. So I'll just use West Banco, 620 is about the lowest credit score. Typically not anything under that, but there are lenders, you'll see things advertised. You'll see lenders or mortgage companies advertising, you know, we can do FHA with a 550 credit score. And maybe they can, but I will just tell you, just words of wisdom, just be careful with that, because again, the credit score, the higher, the better, because you're going to get a better interest rate. You're going to get better terms. You're going to, again, those insurances that you have to pay, that mortgage insurance, everything that's risk-based. So your premium for that is going to be based on your credit score. So a company may say they can get you in with a 550, but you better look at your fees. You better look at your interest rate. You better look at your payment, because you may not want that. So I'm just, you know, make sure you're aware of that. So with us, about a 620 is the lowest, but there are some companies that do go lower than that. But I would tell you the higher, the better. So just keep working on it.
Okay. And our last question in the chat is, if you are looking for a second home or second home property for renovation and resale, how different is the process described?
So second homes are a little different. So if you're buying your primary residence, you can only have one primary residence. So anything outside of your primary residence, if it is not on a lake somewhere or in Florida on the beach, that's a second home. It would be investment property, especially, you know, again, talking about based on that question, that would be considered investment versus a second home. And investment property, you're looking at higher down payments, typically higher credit scores, but down payment could be anywhere from 15 to 25%. It's going to vary on the property. If it's a one unit, if it's a duplex, fourplex, that will all matter what the down payment requirement would be. And then do you have, you know, the ability to, you know, make that payment? If you don't have a history of being a landlord, there's only so much of that payment that can be used as a credit back to you. So again, if you have questions like that, feel free to reach out to me or reach out to your lender and have that conversation, just so you know all the ins and outs of that. Investment property is a little different. Process the same, but different requirements.
And really, last question that kind of came on in, for a couple whose credit score is used, if one is higher than the other, are they averaged, or how does that work?
Yeah, great questions, everybody. So on a mortgage, it's a tri-merge report from all three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So it's a tri-merge report. You get 3 scores. So each borrower is going to get 3 scores. The highest score is kicked out on a mortgage, and the lowest score is kicked out on a mortgage. Everything prices from that middle score. So if you both have middle scores, the lowest of the 2 middle scores is the one that's used for the pricing and everything with that loan. Great question.
All right, thank you both so much for answering these questions, and thank you for all the participants for asking such excellent questions. So we just have a few concluding remarks at the end of the presentation before we have these fantastic giveaways. So just really quickly, I have included the contact information for both Joyce and Janet in the chat. It will also be posted on the last slide. So if you would like to contact them, the email addresses and their personal cell phone numbers have been included there. So just very quickly, a couple of events we have going on for Target 3 for the rest of the year. We do have an event coming up with Black Soil to support Black farmers in the state of Kentucky, in which we'll be touring the Julietta Market in downtown Lexington. So please feel free to join us for a cooking demonstration and a workshop. So this will be held, I believe it's Saturday, June 12th. We are taking a little break during the summer to recharge and refresh, but then starting in September, we will have a budgeting workshop, October, debt management, and then in December, we will be having a Buy Black Lex 365 event, at the Julietta Market. And so now Marilyn will be talking a little bit about our final remarks, including this wonderful economic recovery stimulus program.
Thank you, Tanea and Joyce and Janet. That was great information.
Right.
Buying a home is very confusing, so you were very helpful. So one of the things I wanted to share with entrepreneurs is that the City of Lexington and Commerce Lexington are working together to provide an economic recovery program for people who live in Lexington. We have $2.3 million to give away. I am working on that loan committee. So we started processing loans on Monday morning. We will continue processing loans until there is no money left. So I would suggest, if you want to participate in that, that you go to the application on the Commerce Lexington website. They will give up to $25,000, which is our maximum. So great program, don't miss out on it. And I think the last thing we are going to give away some door prizes, which is always exciting. So I think that Joyce and Janet have some prizes, and I hope you also have the questions.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's start with Janet.
Okay. I'm jumping the gun. I'm ready to give away. So again, thank you all so much for joining tonight. I hope this information was helpful. If I can be of service to any of you, I hope you'll reach out. Even if you just need information or guidance, please know that I'm here to help you. So my question, so $25 gift card to Home Goods. I hope you like Home Goods. That way you can buy something pretty or something nice for your home or your apartment, wherever you are right now. So my question is, who can tell me what the acronym PITI stands for?
Yeah, first person to write it in the chat. Oh, some fast typers. All right.
We have a winner.
Yeah.
All right. So Janet, if you can tell us the answer.
And the answer is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
All right. So first person to type that in, because y'all are just quick as a bunny, is Mina Thomas. So thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Thomas. Yay. Awesome. Congrats.
So yes, so Mina, if you can just private message me in the chat with your contact information, I will pass that to Janet for you to get your prize.
Yay.
Awesome. Congrats.
Okay, Joyce.
Yes.
Hey, and also I want to thank everybody for attending. This has been fun. And hopefully we can do this again sometime. Okay, so my question is going to be, when does an offer become a contract?
Ooh.
What? Okay.
Got a winner.
We got it. When all parties agree and sign the docs.
Yeah. Okay. Now, our winner is Catrice Madison.
All right.
Awesome.
So, congratulations, Catrice. You are more than welcome to send us your contact information, although we probably have it on file.
Yeah, I'm sure I've got it.
But yes, we will send that both prizes to you and Mina. So thank you so much for your attendance and participation tonight. It's been truly a wonderful event. So please join me in thanking Janet and Joyce for being our speakers tonight. You know, virtual clapping of the hands.
Yes.
And, you know, please feel free to attend any of the upcoming events that we have in regard to Target 3. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And I want to say thank you to Sherry Coles for taking care of our technology tonight. She was not on schedule to do that, and she jumped in. Thank you, Joyce and Janet, so much. This is wonderful. And Tanea, you're just wonderful. And all of our Target 3 committee, we thank you for joining us tonight in this work as well. Awesome.
Great.
Bye.
All right. You guys have
Thanks,
a great night.
everyone.